Good morning, everyone, and how are you today? I hope you are fine. And we have been learning this online class for like nearly 3 or 4 months already, and I hope you really enjoy this new experience of learning. And I also understand that it is very difficult for you to stay at home and haven't been to school for 3 months. You will miss school very much, and I also really likes to be in the real classrooms teaching all of you as well. But anyway, it is also a good opportunity for both of us in order to learn the new thing, which is the online learnings. For the future, I think you will have a lot of lessons to learn even though you miss the class, because you can study from home as if we are doing right now. So without any further ado, I hope we can start the class now. And before we move on to the main lessons on the whiteboard today, I would like to remind you that if you have some points related to the infinity or gerund and you are not sure about those lessons, I strongly suggest that you should go back to the video lessons which talk about the infinitive and gerunds, so that you get a better idea of what those two important concepts are. Why I suggest you to go back to study those points? Because in today's lesson you will learn infinitive and gerund, and you will use the infinitive and gerund in order to give suggestions and advice, and these are the structures that you can use in order to give suggestion and advice using gerund and infinitive. So gerund and infinitive is important for you to get some idea on how to use two infinitive and gerund before we move on to this lesson, because those lessons we already learned like 2 weeks already, and I hope you already understand and get a better idea of what those infinitive and gerund are. Now, without any further ado, let's move on to our lesson. And for the lessons today, we are studying the blueprint 4, and the topics that we are studying in unit 3 related to sport and fitness. Now, it is the lesson 2 of the unit 3, and the title is which better show up early. As I told you before, the first day that we study unit 2, you will know why they use this for. So in this video you will learn this. Okay, the language focus of our lesson today, we will focus on suggestion and advice using two infinitive and gerund. And there are 4 main structures that you can use in order to give advice and suggestions to everyone. So the first structure, you use the verb suggest or the verb recommends. So if you suggest somebody to do something, which means you give suggestions, because the verb is suggest already, and the verb recommends, which means you give advice or suggestion as well. So I suggest doing something and recommends doing something. So remember, the word suggest and recommends is used with gerund, which is verb plus in and g. So look at the example here. I suggest you go shopping. I suggest reading that book now. Okay, so I suggest reading that book. So the word suggest here plus verb ing, which means you suggest doing something, and it also applies to the word recommend. I recommend reading that book. It's okay. Let's move on to number 2, which is the structure be sure or it is a good idea. And these two structure, it has the same meaning, but what you need to be careful is to use with two infinitive, which means to do something. So let's look at the example. So be sure is a phrase that you can use to start a sentence. Be sure to turn off your internet. So it gives advice and suggestion, or it can add as a reminder. So somebody remind you to do some things. That's why they use the structure be sure. Let's move on to the third one, which is you had better do something. So the word had better here, which is what our title of the lesson is. So had better we use to give a strong advice. Okay, it has a similar meaning to the word must. When somebody feels sleepy, you should tell him you had better take a nap. Or in the short form, okay, better. You better, okay, do something. And remember the word had better we use plus the main verb. We do not use it with to infinitive or gerund. Okay. Last but not least, you can also use that close. Okay, I hope you remember the word that close, and because this lesson is already covered in another video lesson already. So you can use the that close in order to give suggestion and advice. So to start the that clause, you can say I believe that, I suggest that, I recommend that, I strongly believe that, I want to say that. So all these words and phrases can be used with that clause in order to give advice. Now, when I know that you already learned some of these in the previous level already, or it is very easy for you to study this lesson because you just remember the four structure so that you can give advice. And there are a lot of ways for you to give advice. It is not only with to infinitive and gerund. You can use modal verb to give advice as well, right? You should do this, you should do that, or you must do this, you must do that. So all of those ways that you can give advice is up to you which one you want to use, but make sure you use it correctly. Okay, now it's come to the practice section. So I had two scenarios. So the first scenario is your friend has an argument with her boyfriend. So in this situation, what should you do? What advice and what suggestion should you give to your friends when she has argument with her boyfriend? What type of suggestion? Again, there are many ways that you can use to give suggestion. Okay, you should call him, or you should talk about your problem with him, or you can say, I suggest that you should do this, or I recommend that you should do that, or I recommend calling him now. It's up to you. There are many ways that you can use to give suggestions. So in this situation, you can think of some easy and simple exercise in order to help her. The second scenario, your best friends want to watch sport on TV. So your best friend, he really likes sport and he want to watch sport on TV, but he doesn't know what channel that he can watch sport. So in this situation, what is your suggestion? So all of these scenario you may find in your homework or maybe in your classwork. So just be prepared for your advice. Now, everyone, it's come to the end of our first video lesson, and I hope we can meet again in the second session. And in the second sessions, you are going to study the writing part 3. So be prepared and enjoy the lesson. Now, everyone, goodbye. See you again in the second session.